Because, in fact, in the oil deregulation law, the nature of this is to deregulate or to provide a liberal concept of free trade and free enterprise. We say that the proposal of the affirmative side should fall because the premise would lie to the fact that this failure to define a standard or failure to define a fair price would lead to effect or would lead these oil companies the freedom to control or to dictate oil prices. And there's this tendency for these oil companies to abuse this deregulated free enterprise in oil industry. And on the second, that this vagueness or ambiguity allows these oil companies to take advantage of the law by issuing prices that are not within the checks and balances of the government. Hence, leading to unfair competition, cartelization, and predatory pricing as the law provides. But again, we say in the negative side that we oppose to that premise or we oppose that to those arguments because of the fact that we need first to understand what is the nature of a fair price and how is this becomes a natural byproduct, Your Honors, of actual competition in a progressive market like in our in the status quo today in our deregulated oil industry in the Philippines. These are the effects of liberalization and free trade as can be seen in a deregulated market or industry. Therefore, if we impose or define a fair price in the law itself, doesn't that contravene or defeats the purpose of the law in the first place? That would make now an indirect regulation. If you impose a standard or you impose a fair price or suggested retail price for these oil companies, that would be tantamount to imposing now a regulation. So that would not be necessary anymore. Being a necessity speaker, we say that there's no constant fair price, Your Honors, and that there's no fixed formula or fixed price for that matter. And that there are also other global market forces that comes into play. Not only the domestic domestic market forces, but again, even if we regulate the oil industry in the Philippines, we cannot regulate the global oil market price system. And again, we say that there are these forces, global market forces such as the supply, the demand, speculation, and this weather conditions and geopolitical factors that comes into play. That the Philippines, although we are, we can regulate the oil price in the domestic level, again, we cannot really control the global market price as this is a spot market system that's being conducted in buying oil in the global market. And again, these oil companies are just middlemen or they're just really there to buy by spot market and that this is already a business reality. And in business, Your Honors, business, no one is in business to lose money. And again, if you have this free trade, free enterprise, we allow them to have this certain management prerogatives to impose their own competition. To be in the competition, you must also have this kind of adjustments, just like what is happening now in the local industry. Where in fact, here in Quezon City or in NCR, we say that the reason why oil prices is cheaper here in NCR as compared to the provincial level is that there is this centralization or the location of the oil depots and the oil refineries are all centralized here in NCR. So that's why these protesters, as you see in the video, this explains now why there are difference in fair price systems. So you cannot really impose a constant fair price because it's really different in an area and it varies from time to time. Again, as I've explained, I've already discussed to you the domestic global market forces as well as the international market forces that influence a fair price.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Jams, 2 minutes now to cross-examine.
In the rule of statutory construction, laws enjoys a presumption of constitutionality, isn't it?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes,
to justify the nullification of the law, there must be clear and unequivocal breach of the Constitution.
Okay.
The law shall not be declared invalid unless the conflict with the Constitution is clear beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Republic Act 8479 does not have any provision on fair pricing because the regulation assumes that the market will set the fair price.
It is not fair price is not an element
yes
of
or no?
A crime or a violation.
Yes or no, Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
So it would be a breach of Constitution amounting to deprivation of due process if the government will penalize these oil firms for overpricing because they do not violate any law, isn't it?
Again, the oil deregulation law is not just the one
Isn't
who
it?
provides violations in
Isn't
the
it?
agreement.
I would
I don't
appreciate
agree.
a yes or no, Mr.
No.
Speaker. Okay. Okay, thus rendering the contention that the law is void for vagueness because the law failed to prescribe standards on fair pricing that is tantamount to infringement of due process clause on the part of the oil companies.
The regulation does not define, again, does not need to define a
Isn't
fair
it?
price. No, I know. That's qualified, no.
Okay, are you aware that there is a prevailing oil crisis in the Philippines due to the continuous oil price hikes?
Yes, of course, we can see that, Mr. Speaker.
So do you believe that by retaining the oil deregulation law in the absence of fair price mechanism in the oil deregulation law, which is your stand, the oil hikes will be mitigated?
The oil itself
Yes
does
or
not
no?
guarantee to reduce prices. It's just to stabilize or to
Yes or will
have
it
the
mitigate, Mr. Speaker?
That's our own definition of mitigate. But again, we do not promise to have lower prices in oil deregulation.
Okay, would you dispute the fact that
Okay, break it up, guys. Rex, 4 minutes now to argue the benefits of scrapping the oil deregulation law.
Okay, members of this monstrous house, your honors, my worthy opponents, a pleasant evening, maayong gabi ka na tong tanan. Two level